Motivated Masculine Men podcast. And today, today we have a special guest that is not a man, which is cool. We're gonna get a different perspective. The last episode we had Ashley's husband John on, but I just want to remind everybody this podcast is about inspiring, educating, and challenging men to embrace healthy masculinity, deepen their relationships, optimize their health, and step boldly into their purpose. Ultimately leading them to join our brotherhood, to join a brotherhood, to build on their brotherhood. So that is the ultimate purpose, to build their brotherhood out, because there's too many lost men in this world at the moment, I feel. And so that's why I started everything up, the brotherhood, all of that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share out if you enjoy this. But without further ado, Ashley, how's it going? It's been a while. We've talked recently, but we haven't actually seen each other since an event where we met, who our great friend Brad Hart put on. What was that? That was 2 years ago now?
Yeah, I think it was 2023. I think it was 2 years ago.
Jeez. Yeah, it was 2023. Yeah. Jeez. Time flies. Time flies, doesn't it?
I know. I can't believe, when we're recording this, it's like mid-April already. And that to me is just wild. That we're in quarter 2 of 2025. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, how does this year has just flown? It's just gone by so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So
well, and
fast.
I'm a planner. And so I was talking to John, too, back in October. And that's when it hit me. And I was like, 2025 is going to be very busy and very expensive. And of course, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, the next thing that he was focused on was, Halloween. And when I say that, it was more of like helping me not bulk buy candy at Costco was really, or gentle reminding that I shouldn't be doing that for the trick-or-treaters. But
yeah,
it's just flown. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Personally, always grinding and hustling as far as the business side goes, which is more fun than those words make it sound. Like I love what I do, but it's we've got 2 of the kids are graduating. Eldest is graduating college, youngest is graduating high school. The middle one is enjoying kind of like cruise control right now with life. Like, she's got her job and she's doing her thing. We've got family coming in from the UK. John's sister got married and they're celebrating this summer.
awesome.
I've got, my business stuff, mastermind things and client events, and it's just, it's good. It's busy and it's chaotic, but it's a lot of fun. Very
That's
happy.
awesome. That's awesome. That's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, it was a great conversation with John on yesterday when we recorded it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was so good to, and he was the first person, the first guest on the podcast. You're second, so there you go. It's good to have. Well, it's going to be great to have back to back perspectives from a couple, from a relationship. One of the pillars of this podcast is around relationships, and so it's going to be great to hear different perspectives, because we heard his last time, which you haven't even heard because it's not released yet. And then we're going to get yours, and viewers and listeners can hear that. I want to jump straight into it. I like to ask this question, which I didn't ask John directly straight out. We kind of just ended up diving straight onto the topic. But what, from a female's perspective, from a feminine perspective, what would you say? What does healthy masculinity, mean to you when you think about that?
Okay, so I Googled this, okay, and I'm bringing it up again right now on my computer, because I was like, John was the one who told me that you were looking for guests, and that's how I was like, oh, and went and, tagged a bunch of people for him, and I was like,
and I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Because I love it, and I think the topic is great, and again, more of a planner. John is very good at in the moment. Way better than I am. And so I've been thinking about this, and I think it was the day before he was supposed to record with you, and I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about what I'm gonna say, and he's like, yeah, I haven't, and I was like, and I'm like, because I think we have and John might have touched on this, we have LGBTQ in our family and in our immediate family. And so the discussion about masculinity and femininity has always been kind of like, it's always been around. And so I was like, okay, there's a general assumption of what I thought masculinity was, which is like what you think of what I think of is like, a quote unquote traditional man, or that stereotypical man. And so I Googled it, and the definition is qualities or attributes regarded as characteristic of men or boys. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, so go me. Be like,
Very generic. Yep.
Thanks for that, validation and affirmation of Google. I appreciate that. So, but it's very much, things that you just associate with guys, I guess. And for me and my upbringing and all of this was because gendered identity and things like that, we didn't really talk about it. If it was something like, it wasn't a thing because we didn't talk about it, right, when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And so it's like the kids have helped mind map with wait, kind of like pause and think a little, take a moment to think differently. But yeah, I think it's, we're in the Midwest. So to me, it's, things with motors and fishing or hiking or outside stuff or, whatever you have with that. I think it's really interesting as I've been able to learn about different cultures and things like that, how the definition of masculinity can be different. So for example, here in the US, at least how I grew up, Dad always took out the garbage, and John always takes out the garbage, and I love him for it. I'm like, yay. But
same here. I always take out the garbage.
Like, I can take out the garbage, but now I don't have to because he does it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Same as my wife. She can do it, but it's just this unspoken thing of I take out the garbage.
Yeah, it's just so funny. But there's other cultures, specifically, in Asian countries, where the woman will actually be responsible for taking out the garbage because it's considered a degrading thing for men to do it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's
you say that my stepmom's Chinese, and I think about it, I'm like, yeah, it is so true. It's yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, I think that this, having the conversation and really kind of thinking about it, especially with we all three of our kids, just for your listeners, they're Gen Z. And so anyone else who's been on TikTok or anything, like, you can kind of relate to the level of woke that we have in our daily lives, which is, it's not a bad thing. There's the extremists where we're like, okay, wait a second,
Yeah. I mean, I remember in the 90s, I grew up in California, very redneck area of California. So north of San Francisco, but used to go to San Francisco all the time. My dad was at chiropractic school in San Francisco. So I used to go down there. So you used to have the LGBTQ, that kind of the 90s version of all of that. And, then it was very like, not so, it wasn't as, I want to say it wasn't as okay, but it was still okay in ways like, but in my family, it was like, whoever you are, it doesn't really matter. We don't really care who you are as long as you're not hurting somebody, and we can all get along. My mom had gay friends. Like, some of her really good friends that owned a restaurant right in the same block as where her chiropractic business was. I'd go out over there, hang out. You didn't think anything different of it until I got older and people started to talk about it and tell me that it was different. I'm like, these guys are just, they're no different to me. I didn't care or think about it. and
exactly.
And as a man, I'm like, and John and I talked about this yesterday. As a man, as long as you're protecting and you're providing and you're having fun and you're not treating anybody badly.
Yeah. And I think we shift and we evolve as people, humans, as a society, as a culture, as we're able to have these conversations and talk about this stuff, because there's a lot and I can get, John and I do talk about this stuff quite a bit. Again, our kids, and The eldest is graduating from college. Very proud of her, but she's been in a very liberal college for the last, 4.5 years. So
Yeah.
like, it's just, we have a lot of conversations and we encourage conversation. Like that's the only way that you learn something new or that you can
Yep.
evolve and grow as a person. But there's a lot of things where, John will be like, well, this is what it means to me to be a man. And I was like, well, the same could be said for a woman. And, we can both take out the garbage, but before John and I met, I was a single mother for 9 years and I was on my own primarily. I had relationships, but it wasn't, I guess, in that context of being a boy versus a man. There's that there's that different conversation. But I've just always had that independence as a young adult. And then, even growing up, my father was the one who would tell me that I could do anything that I wanted to as long as I was willing to work hard for it.
Yeah.
And when you're 3 to 6, that's great. And then, because he didn't really get into the nitty gritty of what that actually means, the whole work hard part, right?
Yeah.
But I think talking about masculinity and what it is and what it means to each person, the best reference that I have, or the analogy that I think people could I hope agree with, is the fact that it's what you see as an example when you're growing up, right? So if you are either see as an example or are told this is what it means to be a man, or you see that. And I think that from my perspective, my dad isn't this super burly, go hit the gym, lift all the weights kind of guy, but he always had a project car in the garage. He also took out, my mom, again, he also took out the garbage along with my mother, but it was very much they're a team and they're still a team. The older I get, I realize how privileged I am in this aspect of, a charmed childhood. My parents are high school sweethearts. They're still together after, well, according to my dad, forever.
Go your parents. Go your
Yeah.
parents, because as you said, it is in a way, it's a privileged thing, because so many of us do not have. My parents are divorced, as you probably tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people have divorced parents.
But they worked as a team.
Yeah, that's the difference.
They both cooked, they both cleaned, they both did the shopping, they both were involved and stuff like that, and they both provided, and all of that. And that was something that didn't happen in my first marriage. It was the expectations from my first marriage were, you're the wife, you're the home caretaker.
Yeah.
You're supposed to raise the kids, you're supposed to take care of the house, you're supposed to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's
that was great in the 20s, but you can't really do it anymore.
Now, again, youngest is graduating high school, the others are flying the coop. I'd love to be a stay-at-home mom.
My wife would as well. We talked about the other day. She makes well more than I do, and it's like, she's like, I'd love to just sit at home. I'll cook you dinner every single day. She's like, but it's just not feasible. As you said in the very beginning, bills this year's going to be very expensive. It is just getting more expensive, like everything out there.
Exactly. Well, we want to do stuff too, right? But
yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things where there's all these conversations coming around about, traditional wives, trad wives. You can find it on, well, pick your platform, right? But it's like there's the negative parts of, I think, of masculinity or femininity comes into play when people try to tell you if you're doing it right enough. Like you're it's on Netflix right now. It's leaving in a couple weeks, but I just binged the Meet the Parents trilogy. So Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, and Little Fockers movies or whatever.
Love those movies.
Yes, they're great early 2000s humor, right? And Robert De Niro, come on. But it's one of those where, it's like you see Robert De Niro's character, right? He's the former CIA agent, all very stereotypical man, testosterone, we don't feel things, we get stuff done, that kind of thing. And then you have, oh gosh, his name is escaping me right now.
Just
It is
Ben Stiller.
No, his dad.
Oh yeah, his dad's complete opposite.
Yeah. Is it Daniel Hoffman? Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. Okay. Yes, and he does so good. He does such a good role at. He's such a good actor.
And it was just hilarious. But it's the more we're going to embrace our emotions. We're going to be proud of your accomplishments, even that 10th place ribbon. We're going to encourage you and believe in you and love you. And he, his character was a stay-at-home dad. And this movie, Meet the Fockers, came out in 2004. So even just 21 years ago, the idea of a stay-at-home dad was still like, ugh, what? What are you
I think I want to jump in on that because I have a thought on, now that you just brought that up, it just brought a thought in my head because my dad was pretty much a stay-at-home dad for quite a while in my early life, and then he went off to chiropractic school and then started working. My brother is more or less a stay-at-home dad. He's got two twins, not identical, boy and girl, that are like, when I say, yeah, they are 99th percentile, like a lot of work. They're big. They're 2 years old, and she's like, the daughter is like, my niece is like, over 3 foot at 2 years old. Like, just, and my nephew is not far off of that. Like, they are big kids because my brother's 6'4", his wife is 6 foot, Dutch, so has big, those genetics. But so you have that. So when you just said that, the one thing that I think that movie portrays extremely well, though, is that difference between the combination of masculinity and femininity in Dustin Hoffman's relationship. So in Ben Stiller's, whatever his parents' role, you look at his dad and mom, and you have a very good dynamic in my mind. And I love your thoughts on this as well, Ashley, since you brought it up, is you have, yes, he's the stay-at-home dad, but his wife, I can't remember what her name is. She's a really good actress as well. But she sits in that very much that, not your, I don't really want to put a word on it, but not your traditional, like, I'm that stay-at-home mom, I have the apron, like that, not that feminine type thing, but she's very much in that feminine, being able to, she does the sex,
it's Barbara
relationship
Streisand
stuff. Yeah, the Barbara Streisand. Yeah, so she does that kind of, she sits in that feminine side, and she's very like feminine. She's like, sex is good, and like all that. And I feel like there's a great dynamic in that relationship. Whereas a lot of times that what's the word I'm looking for? That portrayal, that image of the stay-at-home dad, is that they end up becoming very you do, and I see it in even some relationships where you have a stay-at-home dad where the wife, or the one who's actually normally more feminine, has those more feminine traits, the creativity, and that ends up dropping into the masculine role because of what society's ended up doing with corporates and all this. My wife and I have talked about it a lot. She ended up becoming extremely masculine because of working in the corporate area for so long. She still does, but she now is more in that feminine because she's worked on it a lot. But she became very masculine because she was working with all men all the time. She was having to to be able to stand her ground as such, and that masculine side comes out, which created stuff for us, which we now have worked through as well, and there's better dynamic. But I feel like, I don't know if that has come through right, but I feel like there's in that movie, it was portrayed really well on how, yes, he's that he's got that softness to him, he's got that feeling the emotions and that, but at the same time, he is more of the masculine in the relationship, if that makes sense. Would you agree or not?
Yeah, I do. And I think the whole idea with this is, and I realize this just my perspective of my marriage with John and with the movie, is it's okay, specifically with this, it's letting your man or your husband be a man.
Yes.
Without doing things that degrade or demasculine him. because it could very have been, and I've seen this, like, are you cursing on this podcast? How vulgar?
Yes, yes, we curse.
Because again,
It's illicit.
growing up, a phrase that, a bunch of my guy friends would always reject, was they didn't want to be pussy whipped.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's still used to this day. It's still used to this day. Stop being so pussy whipped.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's just whatever. And and the thing,
it doesn't get used as much anymore. Like, it doesn't get used as much, but it does still. I still use it. I still use it as a joke. I'm like, don't be pussy whipped. Come on, let's go. Let's go for a ride.
yeah. But it's one of those. Well, and it's just because John and I talk about this too. Like, there's things that you just do as a sign of respect for the person that you're with, right? In a relationship, or when you have family and home and everything that you're trying to take care of. Because John will still ask me. I mean, even today. So before we started recording, I shared my funny story. 4 or 5 couples. We're all driving up to the Harley-Davidson dealership. The husband's in the driver's seat. He gets out of the car. Yeah, he gets out of the car, goes to the dealership. The wife gets out of the car. She gets in the driver's seat. He rides the bike home. She brings home the vehicle, right? And it's just like, after the 4th or 5th time, it's just funny, right? And it was just, he's like, hey, we met a couple of our friends that we ride with. He's like, so Jason wanted to go for a ride after we picked up the bikes today. Is it okay if I come home later? I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. But I think it's understanding, and it's the dynamic within a relationship too. Like, he's not really asking my permission.
No.
He's also not. I mean, the extreme.
He's not demanding it. He's not demanding it either. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it.
He's just making sure that he's communicating, which is a key pillar to a relationship, any relationship, not even just an intimate one, is communication. I do the same thing. I paraglide, I paraglide, I ride motorcycles, I work, doing work, doing, business, personal stuff, and then also, a day-to-day job. And as long as I'm communicating with my wife, she's totally fine with it. She's like, yep. Yeah. And then she'll communicate with me. She's like, okay, you're doing too much of that. We need some us time.
Yeah.
and that gives her the time when I go, hey, I might go paragliding this weekend. She goes, actually, she's like, do you mind if we do, like, can we prioritize some of us, please? It's been a little while. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. I apologize.
Well, and it's the flip side of it is one of the things that I really try and encourage John to do this, because he doesn't. And this is something that I've known since the man and I have been together. It's 9 years this year that we've been together. 5 years married.
Congratulations.
But, thank you. But it's one of those where I'm just like, will you go do something for yourself? Because he is the type of person that will bend over backwards and will take a bullet for anyone in our family immediately. He will, to his own detriment. And I know you work with people like this, Chris. To his own detriment. And to where I finally got him to go on a hunting trip last fall.
Yes.
I'm just like, no, go. And he's like, well, it's bad timing and it's expensive because I have to buy all the new gear and then you're going to have to take care of the house by yourself. And I'm just like, well, as long as you're fine with the house not being like spotless, like, and our house is never spotless, but it's just like,
3 kids.
I'll miss you, but go, like, he has me and 3 other females in the house. I'm like, go be a dude. Go get dirty, go get smelly, go hunt something, like, and I know that could be a controversial topic for somebody hearing this, but where we live, it's food. Okay, it's not just like, yay,
Even if it's just sport. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'll be out there, and this is going to probably piss some people off. My dad's going to Africa for the 2nd time to go hunt in Africa, to go hunt things. Now I'm going to put a thing on this. Hunting is actually a necessity. You take, for example, this place that he's going, and I know it'll be the same place where John went hunting. I guarantee it. if we do not actually cull animals, they overrun things. And then they end up not having any food, and then they actually end up going extinct. For example, the ranch that my dad's going back to go hunt. Now he's not going hunting lions and stuff like that. He's going to hunt, zebras and gazelles
Okay,
and
we can still be
kudus
friends.
and stuff like that. Yeah, kudus and stuff like that. But this ranch, when they took over this land, there was almost no animals. I forget I think they've like 4 or 5 times the amount of animals that are actually now in this area because of the way that they manage the property. Plus, also then they give all the meat to all the locals that they from the animals that
Yeah,
are killed. Plus, also they hire all these people and pay them well and feed them and house them and all this stuff as well. Plus, then they're also doing all this anti-poaching. So it actually becomes a ecosystem that actually creates and has actually
yeah,
lifted the population, all
yeah.
because they bring in tourists that want to pay a bunch of money and go hunt these animals.
Yeah, it's kind of like for more of a, liberal take on it. It's kind of like when you go to Oregon and pay $20 to go pick your own strawberries for the experience.
Exactly. I mean, I've done it
like,
here. I
like
picked
I
strawberries
would do
here.
it. Like
Yeah.
I would do it because I also see the value that I didn't have to try and grow the dang strawberry plant. Like.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
exactly.
think
But it taps into that. It taps into that, and I'm glad that you pushed them to do that because it taps into, in my view, it taps in. It does. It taps into that. It taps into that biological masculine man from 2 million odd years ago, where we had to go out and hunt and find food.
yeah, and I think that I think again, it's a spectrum for each individual
Yeah.
person, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's almost like denying a natural instinct or a natural part of
Mm,
yourself when you don't like. I mean, there's a whole bunch of I know political and societal and whatever and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, the broader, the overarching message with it was it's just like go do something for yourself.
mhm.
And for him it very much is quote unquote guy stuff.
Yeah.
um we share a lot of the same interests and things like that. He got myself and my daughter, when we met, he helped us learn archery, because ever since Hunger Games came out, I absolutely wanted to do what Katniss does. Like, that's amazing. you well, in the movies, like,
Yeah.
there's cuts for a reason.
It's yeah. Oh man, archery. I don't do it, but I've got friends that do it, and I've done a little bit. My brother's done a lot of it. It is a skill, man. Like
Yeah.
I've got an old police client of mine who she hunts. She does archery hunting, and she'll go and get pigs that are the size of her, and she'll go, and I'm just like, girl, that's absolutely freaking amazing
So
because
precious.
that
Yeah.
I actually sit there and I go, man, I do not feel like a man around you because you go do that and I don't. And I'm not able to. now, now there's so many other aspects, I'm just like that's full on impressive. But the fact that again, you tapping into those, allowing him to tap into those, having him, not even allowing him, but having him tap into those skills, and then it creates those together times and all that as well.
Well, and I think where it really comes from, and I didn't notice this or realize it until John and I got together. Because you date as one does, in their 20s and their teens and whatnot. And I I never felt like I was the female
Mhm.
in yeah, like, okay, so picture it.
Picturing.
Young single mother, but I was also a college graduate and a homeowner. I bought my
Yeah.
first home when I was 21, which like just boggles everybody's mind. And at the time I was just like, this is just what you do. And the market,
Yeah.
again, uh was cheaper than renting an apartment. And I also embraced the fact that I am not the type of person that should own a home without someone else that's going to take care of the home, aka my husband. But like, I had a mortgage, I had a kid, I had, I was working multiple jobs, making it work, all of this other stuff. And then the guys that I would date were still, for lack of a better word, quote unquote, boys. Because they could be. They didn't have a home. They were living with mom and dad. I mean, when you're 21, 22, 23, most people are still living at home. I was the
These
anomaly.
days, especially. These days,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we have a 23-year-old coming home, and we're just like, yeah, do that because it's gonna save you so much.
Yeah.
But it's like I always felt like I was doing to the point where it almost felt like I was mothering it in a bit, like,
Yeah.
you know, like taking care of responsibilities and stuff because they didn't have their stuff together yet. And I mean, to be fair, what young 20 something really does.
Yeah.
My having a
My
child.
wife was like you. She had everything together, and well, as together as you, I guess you can have it.
Right.
But she was same sort of boat as you. She had bought her own house, then she went through a breakup with the guy that she was with, and then I met her a few years later. But yeah, she had it well more together than she still has it well more together than I do, to be perfectly honest. But yeah,
But it wasn't
I
until
get yeah
I met John where
yeah
he had his stuff together and I had mine together. And then and again, this could have been totally me making up things in my head too. But it was like, oh, I don't have to be the one that takes the lead. I don't have to do everything on my own. I can rely on someone else to do other things that just by physical stature, he can open up jars much easier than I can. And I know
don't have to
we're
figure
going
out
down
little ways with a knife and stuff like that to tweak the jar lid to get it open. Yeah.
Well, we have a joke. So Miley Cyrus's "Flowers" song came
Yeah.
out or whatever, and it just I don't know. It just started like I'll be doing something or I'll be struggling, and I'll just be like, I can buy my own flowers, and then John just comes. He's like, what do you need help with? I'm like,
It's
no,
like
I got it.
it's like my wife. I'm 6'6". My wife's 5'4", and she consistently. I mean, she can crawl out. I saw her do it yesterday. She'll crawl up on the bench and stand up so she can get to the
Yeah.
very top shelf. But if I'm in the area, she'll be like, "Chris, I need that."
Yep. No, exactly. It's like it's, and I think it was just it was really nice. I mean, it still is nice, but like the moment when I finally realized, I was like, oh, this is the best way that I could describe it. I was just like, oh, I get to be the girl. Like,
What was it? I'm curious because obviously with relationship being a massive pillar, what was it? And for young men out there, or even a lot of the target that I'm trying to hit as well is not just the young male, which I know are struggling at the moment, but more those kind of those men like my age, John's age, they're 30s, 40, mid to late 30s, they're in their 40s, successful, they've got the career, but maybe they don't have the relationship, they haven't found one, or maybe they're struggling in theirs. But what were some of the traits that you can think of or that are current that you looked for, or that you look for, or that really allow you to be that woman, allow you to be that little girl in the relationship, so that the men can kind of go, hey, wait a second, actually I need to lift that area up in myself, or they can identify that, hey, maybe that's some area that I need to work on.
okay. All right. So I know you're okay. So assuming your listenership, everybody should know Destiny's Child. For those who are younger, Destiny's Child was Beyonce's girl group before Beyonce became Queen Bey. And they had this song that came out called "Bills, Bills, Bills," and it was
Trying
the
to
lyrics are, "Can you pay my bills?" Hold on, I gotta actually. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
let's find it.
This was a huge controversial song when it came out, and it came out in 1999, right?
I
But
was gonna
it's
say it
like,
came out late 90s, didn't it?
yeah, and it was also, you know, we started out great. You were showing me a good time, all of a sudden I'm having to pay for everything, and not in the sense that you think, but it was like, you're using my car, you don't fill up the gas. You're on my cell phone plan, you're spending all of my minutes, because back in the day that was the currency. You only had so many minutes.
We had minutes. You had minutes back then, and that sucked
Yeah.
because it was
You had to wait
incoming minutes as well as
9.
outgoing. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And incoming minutes counted towards your minutes, which was the dumbest thing. If somebody's calling you, they had to pay their minutes and you had to pay your minutes, and it was just horrible.
Yeah. Guys going out, the song talks about the guy going out on a shopping spree, buying her gifts with her own credit card, that kind. So that is the song, okay? And I actually it's still a good jam, honestly.
Yeah. What's it called again? Destiny's.
Yeah, it's Destiny's Child, Bills, Bills, Bills.
Bills.
And but
Bills. I don't remember it, so I'm gonna go listen to it after we're done here.
But for me, honestly, what it was is, and again, remember the time of my life and what I had gone through. Like, I was married, had a baby, divorced, and a homeowner by the time I was 21. Like, that's a lot of life to shove into a couple years, right?
Yeah.
And so I just wanted someone who was going to honestly help me, modeled what my parents were. It was a team effort. It was there, and it was a, but this is probably going to annoy a lot of guys out there, but I also didn't want to tell him what to do. And in the sense of, I wanted to find someone that was going to do those things naturally, without me having to quote unquote train or teach, or, real derogatory term, break him in so that I knew what to, like. I believe that if somebody really cares and loves, that they're going to show up the best way they know how, and then ask for feedback on, okay, how do I show up better for you? Because I think I am doing it, but clearly I'm not. So what does that mean? And with John, he really helped me evolve and grow emotionally as well, because he made me talk about things that the other guys that I had been dating, that I dated up until that time, you didn't talk about emotions. Otherwise, you were a nag, or you were clingy, and you didn't remind him about things, because then you were a nag. And like, I think it's a matter of knowing yourself enough to where you're secure in yourself enough, and you can be vulnerable enough with another human being and be genuinely supportive. And I think that when you're young, that's really hard to do. I struggled with that in general. But John would, and it's so cliche, it seems so basic, but he would communicate. But the part about communication that I think people can often forget, it's active listening. And then it's active thinking about the conversation. It's not just like, oh, well, she's just complaining that I never buy her flowers or anything. It's like, well, no, like, what do the flowers represent? Right? What does that mean? Like John's like, I love, like, here's the bar that my mother set. Okay. I was talking to her like years ago. I was like, how was your day? What did you guys do? And she goes, oh, we had the best day ever. Your dad and I went and we drove around in the hills. So I'm from the Black Hills, South Dakota. We went and drove around, and then I was hungry. And so Dad took me to Taco John's. And so Taco John's is a somewhat competitor, like, to a Taco Bell, for those not in the Midwest. Yeah. And it's my mom's freaking favorite fast food on the planet. And that was her perfect day. She's like, Dad bought me tacos. It
doesn't have to be complicated sometimes. I will put my hand up and say lately I've been pretty terrible at it.
Yeah. But but I grew up with that example, and so for that is normal to me. And I was talking to John about things, and he goes, I have to actively remind myself to call you and ask if there's anything that you want me to bring home before I come to the house. I was like, really? He goes, yeah. He's
Yeah,
like, that is an
same.
active thing. He goes, it didn't, he didn't have that example growing up where with that's just what my parents did, so like
Yeah.
there's talking about those experiences and things like that too. And I think for it's it really is a lot about I think a sense of self. And I think that, you know, John and I were both divorced and had to go through that journey and picking up the pieces of our own selves and stuff like that. So we kind of had a weird leg up in that whole thing.
Mm.
um
You had tried experience where you're like, this is not what I want to happen again, and it's
yeah.
good because it's good that you both recognize that, because there's so many people out there that takes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times for them to actually figure it out.
My yeah, my ex-husband is on number 4. uh,
Yeah. Well, there you go. So
yeah, but it's I think what it is knowing who you are, and then knowing that it is compromise. I like compromise over sacrifice. It is compromise with a partner.
yeah.
And then it's also okay to be like, you know what, that's not really what I want.
Mm.
And I think that this isn't really working. People can be good people and a relationship end. It doesn't have to be he cheated or she spent all my money, or whatever mix you have there. It's one of those where it's like, um, I want to be in a relationship where I don't have to be quote unquote the guy when I'm
Mm.
marrying a guy. Like, I
Yeah.
want someone with a certain amount of testosterone and a certain amount of stereotypical guy stuff. I tell my girlfriends all the time, like, yeah, when John and I go out to eat, I still like that he pulls out our joint bank card and pays for dinner.
Yeah. It goes up and pays the bill. It's
Yeah.
something that I never thought about that. Just those little things, like by habit, it's a lot of the times I will do it, and I'm just thinking about what you just said right there. I still go to my wife. I go. Do you want me to go? Do you want me to go sort this out, or do you want to? Or it just naturally, I end up kind of doing it. I'm like, that is such a it's a yeah, it's a role that men, again, it comes down into one of the things I heard, and I heard recently on another podcast, people talking about the masculinity side of things, and it's that provider pillar. It's that pillar of men. And tell me if I'm wrong here, but I'm very much of a masculine trait is that we provide. And it has come to a detriment at times with that masculine men type side of things. But I do also feel like it's a loss these days, because there is so much equality, as there should be. There's been a loss of the definition of providing from a masculine aspect is different now than it was 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. It's changed. It's not a financial thing necessarily anymore, because women have brought up, and there was a stat on this podcast they were talking about women earn substantially more in their younger years, especially in their 20s and that, than men do now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did they go into
Later,
that?
uh, again, a lot. They were talking a lot. It was Diary of a CEO. I don't know if you've listened to any of his stuff. It was a great, it was a panel type interview, panel type podcast that they did. My wife and I listened to it, watched it. It's like 2.5 hours long, but it's great because it's a lot about this masculine and that. And he had female on that is PhD in behavioral science, and now she does women relationship type side of things, coach. And then he has another guy who's been on quite a few times, who does a lot of this masculinity stuff for young males and that. And they were talking about it, and both of them were like, yeah, women earn more in their earlier years than men do. Later on, again, get to the childbearing kind of years, it
Mhm.
drops off. And then I saw another podcast. I listened to another podcast. I'm trying to remember where I saw it. They were talking around. I think it was Chris Willett, Well, I can't remember his last name all the time, but he's become quite big as well. But he's talking a lot about the masculine side of things and stuff as well. Um, but was talking around the thing of, yes, women are less. There's less women CEOs than men. Some of that's partly because of obviously the old school still in there, but also it's a lot of it's fucking hard work. I mean, you run your own business. It's fucking hard work at the top. And not that women can't do it, but the responsibilities kind of shift and change as women get older, and don't you've got to be really driven, really. I'm going to say it, sacrifice a lot to be at those levels as a female versus
That
a
one
man.
is the sacrifice. In my opinion, that one is
Yeah,
the sacrifice. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think you should have to sacrifice. That's my entitlement. Is I don't think you should have to sacrifice to be in a relationship. And that might just me
no,
being a spoiled wife at that point, because I don't feel like I sacrificed anything.
no, I don't, and
I
I honestly
sacrificed.
don't think I'm with you there. I think in a relationship, in career, there is sacrifice. I mean, it's again, and in that same podcast, they talked around the fact of I actually believe with this one. I'd love to hear your thoughts now that we're talking about it, but I don't believe that the whole DEI equality thing. Women and men are not equal. I'll just go straight out and say it. Men and women are not equal. We should be given the equal opportunities, but we're not equal. You said it earlier on. Your dad said you can be equal, but you're gonna have to work fucking hard. You're gonna have to. You put you and I in the same situations. There's gonna be things that I have to work harder on to be able to do the same as you. There's gonna be things that you have to do that you're gonna have to work harder on than I am because of just physical attributes. For example, my background, law enforcement. There's a monster push here in New Zealand to have 50% female police officers as men, and I do not agree with it whatsoever because a female cannot do the physical attributes that I can. So you walk into a house with a you know 400-pound man that's just beat the shit out of his wife. You're not going to be able to handle him like I can. You just don't have the physical size to it. You're going to have to put a lot more work into martial arts, into all these different things to be able to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that you can't and you shouldn't be given the opportunities to, but I also believe that, yeah, I mean, I can pick up, most females are smaller. I can pick somebody up that's smaller versus if I walk into the same house, I'm not going to be able to pick myself up and throw you across the room as such. If
Yeah.
hopefully that didn't come across crude and the wrong way, but um yeah, it's some of those. That's where that relationship side of things, we shouldn't have to sacrifice our needs, our wants, our desires. The man, in my opinion, should step up to that ability, and if he can't step up to that ability, it's not going to be the right relationship.
Well, so a lot of things to touch on. Love it. But like when it comes to the relationship aspect of it, it's one of those, if you do find yourself in the presence, there's a lot of satire stuff on social. You do find yourself in the presence of a woman that wants to pay, and like this is a very high level like thing or whatever, and you're not okay with that, then you get to decide, okay, is this a deal breaker for me?
Mm.
Like, and if you can do that and if you can communicate, then she gets to decide, okay, well, if he's never going to let me pay because it makes him feel like a man, am I okay with that? Or do I think that is something that, or am I not okay with that? And then just let it be. It's not,
Yeah,
it becomes toxic when you make it such a huge negative thing and start like being
just
awful about those things.
yeah,
Like some behaviors, no, you don't want to. As far as the so the DEI stuff, I think like with many things in this whole great wide world, um, everything started out with good intentions and then it went into a really shitty wrong place
yeah,
because DEI. Of course, you see all of these I see all these memes on social media be like, don't use the acronym. Don't say you're against DEI. Say that you're against diversity, equality, and inclusion if you're going to say it. And I'm just like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Because I need to fact check this, but it was a very good point. So I'm willing to not fact check it just to, I don't know, be right. But somebody posted on there, DEI was intended for people with physical disabilities.
Yeah.
Like it
Initially,
was
I would agree with, from memory,
okay.
back in the 90s, that's what it was. It was, yeah, veterans that couldn't, that were in wheelchairs, the
Yeah,
wheelchairs and those kinds of situations. Yeah.
yeah, stall an
A
elevator.
mental health.
Too
Yeah.
bad. You know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And it's to the point because we've had conversations again with our children,
Yeah.
where it's like, uh, I don't believe that you are automatically the best person for the best job just because of how you look. I had someone at an event learn about what I do. Uh, it's social media marketing. And she was like, "Oh, I need someone to help on my team for that. I'd love to talk to you. Um, I love supporting BIPOC women."
I know you well enough that that didn't go down well.
And I was like, "Oh," and we had a couple days together and stuff like that. And at the end of it, she's like, "Let me get your information, blah blah." And I looked at her. I said, "I really just don't think it's the right fit."
Hmm.
And that was the end of the conversation. But it's one of those where it's like, based upon how I look, like, I don't want to be judged for any of it. Have I used my looks to my advantage? Yes, I have. Specifically when I was out at the bars in my early 20s dating. Totally did
I
that.
was just I was just gonna say, I've used my looks and I've used my stature and I've used my strength all the time.
Like, again, for listeners, I am a Korean woman in the Midwest. There's not a lot of us over here. So yeah, to
No, no.
totally,
Yeah.
going into that.
It's like being in parts of the South as a white male. It just, you're the salt in the pepper shaker.
You're just like, but yeah, absolutely. I would totally, when I was near an Air Force base, like, yeah, I was totally, like, what I like. It's not that
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, right? It's just that's part of biology, I think. But for
Yeah.
someone to be like, I want her to run the new cybersecurity department in law enforcement because she ticks all the boxes. She's female, she's an Asian, or she's a minority, she's an Asian minority, she was adopted, so poor her, all of these other things. And I'm just like, how I don't identify strongly enough with those things for that to be like, I wouldn't feel good about getting the job. I want something because somebody recognizes my skills, my talents, my intelligence, and my character and my integrity. Before any of those other things. So I think it was intended for not just, physical disabilities, and then being like, hey, we should also give the opportunity so that people aren't just looking at these candidates all the time. Because there was also a study, about if you had a white last name versus, a traditionally black last name on a resume, that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, maybe, or like, I don't know, maybe we're starting to get into the generation where, millennials are getting into leadership. And I was essentially raised to, some people will disagree with this. I was essentially raised to be colorblind. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you look like. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Like, it doesn't, like, it doesn't matter what you look like, right?
And
And
again,
so,
it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole.
right, exactly, and it's one of it got to the point where it's like, yeah, I think there needs to be voices, and think that there should be representation, but it should be, again, it comes to the right fit. And this goes so deeper into all of that, but it's just like, I think it goes back. I can also see it, people trying to autocorrect or correct what's happened, and also the pendulum swinging way far back again, and it's like, okay, we gotta, like, it's swinging back and forth, right? But I've actually, my best friend, who I met when I was 11 years old, so we're stuck together. He's like my big brother, who works for the Space Force, by the way. I thought that was mean to
Go to the
make fun of
Space
Trump.
Force.
Well, I thought it was a meme to make fun of Trump. So when he told me about it, I was like, haha, really funny. And then he's like, no, I got my orders. And I was like, oh, okay, so what are you doing? He goes, the Space Force. And I was like, oh, that's real? I thought you were just making fun of Trump. He goes, no, it's real, Ashley. It's been
Yeah.
around for decades. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Every time I hear it though, I can't not think of Spaceballs, the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That's
Well, I told him, I'm like, can I tell people this is your job? He's like, absolutely. But but so anyway, we knew each other since we were 11 years old, middle school. And he's always knew he's a military kid, and he always knew he was going to end up in the military. And so the conversation of equality has, like, I don't know, 11-year-olds have discussions about equality. I don't know, but it's it's it would be harder for me to do anything of the physical requirements for the job than it would be for a man. In your specific example, or even special forces or anything like that. Do I believe a woman who can meet those physical requirements should have the same opportunity to apply? Absolutely.
absolutely.
But if you can't do the job, then you, especially like in a military scenario, you then put not only yourself but your entire unit at risk because you can't get your soldier, another soldier out of harm's way because you get, like, I mean, it's just and I know we're talking about specifics and extremes and everything like that, but it's that's I happen to agree with those points. It's like if I can't lift 50 pounds, why would you put me in a
Well,
scenario where that's a requirement?
it also comes back to that masculinity thing, as a trait that I believe a man has is that protector side.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I was at a concert the other day, an outdoor festival, and I was watching. And when I started in law enforcement, they would always put, if there's, with the female cops, they'd always put a female cop with a male. When we first started, you get partnered up, a female with a male. And the reason for the idea behind that, and this was 2011, the idea behind that here was that way that, if shit hits the fan, there's somebody with more physical attributes. The majority of the time, the male will be stronger than the female, just in a physical, being able to lift weight, push people around, manhandle people, things like that. Yes, you can overcome it with technique and all those if you have the high level of training. 99% of law enforcement don't get it. You got to get that high level training outside of policing
It's
and
not
do it
like
on
the
your own
movie.
time. It's not like the movies where, where they're teaching you how to be a UFC fighter at police academy. No, you've
It's
got to
not
go
Bad
do that
Boys.
shit outside. No, it's not Bad Boys. But they used to do that. I was at this festival, and the majority, I saw 3 males walking together. I saw multiple of 2 females walking together. Now you're talking a festival of 40,000 people. And my mind goes straight to that, again, being law enforcement, being in that thing of, fuck, how do we protect? But again, being that, in my mind, that man he's there to protect. In my mind, I'm sitting there going, why are these guys not naturally just wanting to, putting one of them with these 2 females just to have that physical attribute there? And I'm not going to give my opinion. Actually, fuck it. I'm going to give my opinions on it. It's because we've been pushed on this. It's been pushed on this, and New Zealand is way more liberal. Our furthest right swinging isn't even as right as the Democrats. So we're even more liberal than the Democrats in the U.S. And I honestly believe that it's because there's this massive push of women can do everything a man can do, and I don't honestly agree with women can do everything a man can do because of limitations of physical.
Like, we
Yeah,
win.
yeah. Well, I mean, and granted, I know. I mean,
We need your
I'll
help.
preface. I'll preface this with you can, but there is certain things like for example, if I can't, I mean, you're not a massive person, Ashley, but you come into my house, or if I decide I want to beat the crap out of you,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be easier for me to beat the crap out of you than you beat the crap out of me. I'm 6'6", I weigh 220 pounds, and I'm mostly muscle, and I lift a lot of heavy weights, and I know martial arts.
Well, perspective, John's 6 foot. I don't know what he weighs. He complains about it. I don't
220.
get it.
He told me yesterday. 220.
Okay. But his hand is the size of my foot. So when I need to shop for shoes, he holds up his foot for me, or his hand for me, so I could put the shoe up against it. Like,
Yeah.
his from shoulder to tip of his fingers, that is the length of my leg. So he can
Yeah.
also help make my pants without needing to tie them on. But like, yes, absolutely for
Yeah.
perspective.
And so
And
in my mind, it's not at this festival. I'm like, it's not about saying the woman, the female police officers are, you know, any less capable or any less, you know, they shouldn't be given, you know, all the opportunities. But at the same time, I'm like, from a man's perspective, and you know, we're talking about masculinity here. From a masculinity perspective, I'm like, why the fuck is the man not just going, hey, I'll you know, just wandering around with them just out of that thing of not that you need it, but we're going to prevent it. Because if somebody wants to pick on somebody, they're not going to pick on the 3 cops that are walking around. They're going to pick on the 2 female cops. If somebody decides they do not like cops.
well, and honestly, it's one of those things where like I can relate to the protector and the provider thing, again, single parent. But even when, you know,
Yeah.
I was out by myself with my child, you're protecting the other people who are the most vulnerable at that point.
Yes.
And not that female military and female cops and, you know, aren't capable or any less. But it's one of those where I think it's how it was explained to me. And and again, I'm not a guy, so I don't know, but I can see this perspective is it's a very natural, so subconscious biological level for a man to immediately want to protect a female in the environment over self-preservation or anything else that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe you can biohack yourself and then not happen, but it's not the movies. Like, do I like going to the
I
movies like and seeing a badass girl on screen and she's taking down the guys or she's right up there with them, you know, all the time? Like, absolutely.
the Ronda Rouseys of the world.
Yeah. But we're also yeah. But we're also in a movie.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
and on that, it comes back to the thing of, I mean, I am all for it. Like, when I see a female that can do that, like, I know cops that can do that. Like, I've worked with cops that I'm like, man, I want to be on. I do not ever want to piss you off because you will whoop me, like, absolutely whoop me. And so in those situations, I'm like, I'm your backup. You're not my back. I'm not your backup. You're my, you know, you're my backup. I'm not your backup. But that I know the work that that person has to put into it as well. And this is where I guess it's a perceived kind of thing, but it is, like you said, it is a biological thing that I think has been almost in a way beaten out of us as men over the last little while, because there's so much, and we're starting to get into. I love this. This is great. This is why, you know, I invited you on, because, you know, it's these conversations that people don't want to have. And, you know, going back to the military situation, that I'm like, I'm all for females in the thing, but again, we should not be. We should be having the females do the exact. I think. I mean, my last business, you know it, was helping police officers get into, you know, helping aspiring police get into law enforcement, especially here in New Zealand. Majority of those clients were females, because they came to me because the physical attributes, getting the fitness up to the levels that was required here, is difficult. We have probably one of the harder physical fitness tests actually looking around the world, especially against the US. Majority of the ones in the US are crap. You've got to run a mile and a half in 12 minutes here. And then you have to be able to do 15 to 20 push-ups on your toes all the way down to 90 degrees at the elbow as a female.
well,
There
and
isn't.
yeah, well, like, again, we won't talk about my knee push-ups. But
But
like,
no, like I said, it is very hard work to get to those physical
yeah,
attributes. Most of the law enforcements in the US, they do not require that level. Australia doesn't require that level. We do have some hard ones, which I appreciate, because it does mean that the women that are in the job are more capable. Do I believe that, you know, they should actually, in a way, be told, you know, have to do, especially when it comes to like special forces and things like that, I believe they should have to do the same level as the men do, because the level of risk and the level of the things that they have to do on a day to day are no different. You know, for example, you know, I know special forces that I've you know, interviewed and talked with, you know, spec ops guys and that around the world, and you know, you've got to be able to carry a guy with 50 pounds, 80 pounds of body armor on out of a war zone because he's been hit.
yeah.
I mean,
Exactly, and that's
like
and that's
we've
yeah,
talked about. John's 220. I'm about 220. I'm under 220 now. I'm probably sitting about 200, just on 200. But then you add body armor onto me, my kit, my boots, my everything. I'm up over 250, 260, and you've got a fireman carrying my butt out from over a mile. It
yeah. Well, and
becomes something different to look at.
I'm way more self-aware now because I have what we called little dog syndrome. I am a very
I know
so I
exactly
am
what that means.
yeah, I'm a very small person, but I was the eldest of four
Yeah,
children, and I'm the only daughter. But that meant, all the old eldest sibling
yeah,
characteristics. I'm stronger, I'm blah, 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 whatever. Like, my brothers are all taller than me, and one of them has a
yeah.
black belt in jujitsu, and I'm mad and I stand up off the couch, and they still flinch. Okay?
Yeah.
That's called psychological conditioning.
But
but,
and that's and
but,
I was gonna say that women bring in different attributes, and so they can counteract a lot of things. I've watched women to be able to
yeah,
talk somebody down well better than a guy can because there's just different attributes to it.
yeah. But
And you bring
physically,
different strengths.
our bodies, women, or at least, myself and my girlfriends, we all complain about our weight, right?
Yeah,
Um, and it's one of those where uh, our like the whole because we talk about body. I mean, with three girls in the home, body image is a huge thing, right? And John is to the
yeah,
point where he's supportive, but he's also worried he's gonna say the wrong thing. That whole aspect of it, and it's explaining to the kids that their weight, their size, it's data, and that they can change it. But women's bodies are meant. We store more fat, we have more just naturally, that's just what happens. And if we're lucky, the fat is in the right places, and if we're not, that's how our
yeah,
bodies are meant, because we are that's again going way back to before the internet existed, right? We're taking care of babies and being more of the nurturing roles,
yeah.
right? Why men can shred faster and bulk up easier, because they were out hunting and
Yeah.
fighting
We
and
needed
protecting,
strength.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly. And um I just hope people can start having the conversation that no matter where you are on that, you can have you it's okay,
yeah,
as long as you're not being a dick to somebody else.
yeah.
Like,
Exactly. I
don't
totally
be
agree with that.
like
Don't be a dick.
just, yeah, don't be a dick.
That's the
And
quote. That's the quote of this episode. Don't be a dick.
we that's actually it's I'll need to get your address. I'll send you something. I won't spoil it. I'll send you
Yeah.
something. I gotta send you something. But it's it, like because of course I anticipated like toxic masculinity being something to talk about. It's like I feel like it comes from when people are being, again, you're not being a man enough. You're not being, I mean,
Oh,
that's just being a dick. Like,
yeah,
would you tell that to a 12-year-old? Well, people did. People did tell that to
yeah.
12-year-old boys.
People
And then
still
look what
do.
happened.
People still
um,
do.
yeah, yeah. And it's I think from, um, trying to put myself in other people's shoes, a young man trying to date these days with, uh, well, for example, I hear what my daughters talk about, and I'm like, "You're gonna be single forever."
Well,
I'm like,
this is something that is massive. Like this was what was talked about on that episode around how it's so hard for women, because women are earning more, they're able to do, they're doing more because, rightfully given opportunities, and they they have this standard of, and I don't know if I'd love your opinion on it. It's they were talking around, it's a subconscious conscious thing of, again, that preconceived thing of men, like we've talked about, men do provide in different ways now, but men are that protector. Men look after, they pay the bill at dinner, there's all these different things, but they're not earning or at the level now at the younger ages of women. So the women are hitting this 1% of men that are at that level. So there's a smaller pool of men up there they end up, like you said, you know, you were having to raise the man when you're in your 20, when you're 21, 22, having to raise, you know, coach the man. And I'll totally say it. My wife had to do it as well. And so
Relationship. Yeah.
there's a learning curve with everything, you know, but they have this smaller portion of men that they're able to look at, that they're in, but then those men know it now as well, so then they're not actually wanting to have a relationship either. So you have this massive pool of women that are trying to hit this little tiny pool, and then there's all these guys that are like, I'm never gonna fucking get anybody, so I just don't even. It's an epidemic.
So there's a couple YouTube clips. The first one that I'm going to reference, I wish I knew the name, but it's an attorney that was talking about the rising increase of divorce, and the number one reason why, or the number one pattern that he's seeing, is that women, they are the high earners, they are taking care of the family, they are taking care of the home, or they're paying somebody to garden or whatever it is. They're doing all of these things. They're doing it on a loan, to the point where, why do they need or want this guy around? You know? And so when you're talking about stepping up, that's how I look at it, is like, it's no longer, and I think that's a struggle. It's no longer, when you're with a high performing female or a high quality female like that, I think it's more about really that emotional connection and that support that you can provide. And here's a big one, and I will say this as a female and who I am. It's not being intimidated or feeling ashamed, and it's being secure enough to where, yes, your wife or your girlfriend or your partner does make more and is more successful, and you're okay with that and you cheer it on. I didn't have that in my first marriage. I was basically told to be smaller because it made him look bad. I needed to be small. Whereas John's like, yeah, go freaking do it. That means we get a second bike. Like, whatever it is. And I'm like, all right, and he goes, it just means good things for our family. And if you're happy, then I'm happy and everybody's happy. Yeah. Like, because if you're not happy, then nobody's happy, that kind of thing. And then the second one that I saw too, was from Alex Hormozy. And he was talking about how when you get married, or when you find a woman, she marries two people: the person who you are today and the person who you have the potential to become. Yeah. Right. And it's like I think it's just so hard because I'm trying to think of any kind of male role models that young men can look at and be like, okay, what is this? And how do I do that? Because if you are more on the masculine side of things, you're either taught, or you were told, or you believe that you're not supposed to talk about feelings, and you're not supposed to, like, that's too smushy or whatever. It's like, no, you can still talk and have feelings without being, a rom-com. And like, it's just, it's okay. Like, and I think there's all these stereotypes. I gotta look up another song.
That's so good. Well, you look that up. I mean,
Dax.
Which one?
To Be a Man by Dax, DAX. This is another one that I think that everybody should listen to, because I mean, it was to the point that, like, it's one of John's favorites, and he was playing it a lot in the truck, and I was like, have I ever made you feel this way? And he's like, no, you haven't. I'm like, okay, just making sure. But it's kind of like the pressures that society has put on what it means to be a man, and the pressures of needing to provide, and the pressures of doing all of this, and feeling like you have to carry everything all by yourself. And for me, it comes back to team, and that's for any other, young women that happen to stumble across this or get this far too.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of women that are going to watch this again from that perspective of, how can they help their man? or how can they find a man as well, because
But let's
as we talked about, it's becoming harder and harder for men and women to find each other because of all this we're in this almost in this like turning point of we've wanted men to be we wanted men to be softer and more caring and more of a I'm going to say toxic masculine man, not that like that demanding man. And the pendulum, like we talked about earlier, the pendulum has swung, and now in some ways it's swinging hardcore the other way again. But we always know that it kind of will settle somewhere in the middle. It never always swings all the way back that other way. But it is this dilemma dynamic that we're having to thing. And something that popped up while you were talking about those two YouTube videos is, and my wife and I were talking about it the other day, women these days, or the feminine one in the relationship, has all these different things on them now. So for example, yourself, Ashley, and I know John's really good at this, but there's that whole thing of, you're earning a lot, you're having to work just as much as the men in the house do. You're having to, then there's, if you're not in a great relationship, or the man hasn't stepped up, I'm going to say, you're then doing all the house cleaning and doing still all the feminine traits from the woman's traits from back in the 20s: housework, cooking, cleaning, looking after the kids, all these different things. And the man's not stepping up. And I believe that the man needs, like my wife and I, and again, I'll be the first one, and I think it's a great masculine trait myself. I'll take ownership that I need to work on areas of myself more, and I'm consistently working on myself. Is that we actually take some of those things. For example, I had a birthday party yesterday, and this week I told my wife, I was like, look, I'll do the cleaning after the podcast yesterday with John, and also when I came home on Friday from work. And then it's on her to also respect that I said that I'll do that, so allowing me to do it as well. So we're in that area where men need to step up more in those household chores, which used to always be the woman's chores, because they weren't working and they had the time. And like my wife said, she'll happily, if I'm earning $500,000, 250K, replacing her income, that she's like, I'll happily do all the housework. I'll happily cook, clean. She's like, you'll have food on the table when I get home. When you get home, like that'll last about 5 seconds because I know you way too well. but in saying that, she's like, because she won't have the pressure of she needs to do the income earning. She needs to do all that kind of stuff and then she can lean more over to the other side. So it's that kind of thing. If your woman is she's the breadwinner, she's making the most of the money, it is actually, thrive, like you said, John does, push her more into that, because if she's enjoying that, if she's not enjoying that, then cool, then it's a different conversation. But men, step up and take over some of the other actions, and not in now I'm the bitch of the house. It's cool, now I'm providing in the ways that I can provide for my woman, so that she can then do the things that she loves. And I guarantee you she'll do I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Ashley. When John does that, I guarantee then you want to say, I'll say allowed, but it's not really allowing. It's that kind of, you're supporting him to do the things that he enjoys, and you'll step in and take some of the load from things that he, and times, so that he can actually do those things. Am I?
Okay. So yes, but this reminded me of something really funny. Okay. So in that, it has to be reciprocal. Absolutely.
Yes.
And, again, the mindset or the lens that I look at it is, you are a team taking care of your home. You are a team raising your family. That means sometimes you do the shitty work, literally and figuratively, and sometimes you get to ride the high horse and be the hero. Like, it's teamwork. It's not meant to be degrading. It's like, here's the 50 things that need to be done today.
Who's going to do
Between
what?
the two of us, we might be able to get 20 done. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
So this was really funny. This was the first, I think this was like the first or the second winter that we were here. We live in Minnesota, so snow is normal. And John was having, it was a lighter workload for me, and it had snowed, and John is just exhausted, like just tired. Like his job is very physical, regardless of what people think of electricians. And so I was outside and I was shoveling the driveway. And our neighbor comes out. He's like, "Where's John?" And I was like,
It's funny. I thought this was what you were going to talk about. As soon as you said Minnesota, I was like, oh, it's going to be about shoveling snow or something out in the driveway. Because in my mind, and even in my mind, like, that's a man's job. Not that a woman can't do it. It's like mowing the lawn. Majority of men will mow the lawn because it's.
Yeah.
I would say it's because, in my mind, I feel it's more of a physical it's more of a physically demanding action. And so, of course, I'm going to step up. I'm going to do it because I have those physical attributes to me. Not that you can't do it, but
yeah. Right. And it's taken care of. And for John, for him, it's taking care of the home that he has created or he has purchased for us as a provider. Yeah. Like, that's that. And I'm like, all right, cool. I don't care. I should not own a home without somebody else that can take care of a home. Okay. But and then we were moving in and we were getting, or the summer after we moved in, they had a wheelchair ramp in the front of the house that John wanted to get rid of. And there was a bunch of yard work in the back, and we gutted out the basement and stuff like that. And so we've got this huge dumpster and I've got a drill, and I'm unscrewing the boards and like throwing these boards above my head into the dumpster and doing all of this work. And like, I could just see, the people walking by and the neighbors just kind of looking at me funny. Like, where the hell is her husband? What they didn't see was all the sheetrock and the cement and all of the, 2x4s and everything that John was hauling up and down from the back. But he's like,
exactly. And it's this level thing, and that's where it comes back to the team. It comes back to the teamwork. You do it together. Yeah. My wife and I will do the same thing. We'll be doing stuff, and she'll be doing stuff. I'll probably be doing the slightly heavier stuff, but she's still doing the stuff as well. It's like when we move house. There is certain things like I'll get my buddies who are big and strong, big like me, and we'll get movers now because I can't be bothered to move shit anymore.
There's value in that. There's a real lesson for young people out there. Hire a moving company. Like, just
exactly. Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah, put it in your budget. But when we were younger, especially, my wife, it's not a thing of she goes, "Oh, this is your job. I'm gonna go, just unpack things." No, she'll help do stuff. Then she'll start to unpack things because she knows where she wants, and again, that teamwork is the dynamic. I'm happy with her doing that because it's not something that I want to do. She likes to do it. She likes to know where everything is. And then I kind of go, oh, cool, where is everything? But the big furniture and stuff like that. Yes. Can she help me do it? Yes. Is it easier, and does it take pressure off of her and actually make life easier for both of us if I get one of my big, strong buddies to come help me move the freaking couch inside the house? Yes. Now, will she do it if we don't have that opportunity? Yes. And so it is like you said, it's that teamwork. It's that working together and leaning on each other and the strengths and weaknesses, and helping grow the weaknesses, helping improve the strengths, and just working as a team. I mean, this is the biggest thing: is men out there, work as a team with your woman, or if you're trying to find a woman, just instantly start working as a team. Find out what she likes, what she wants to, what she enjoys, and then support it. And that is, I think, probably the most masculine thing you can actually do, is actually put yourself to the side. Don't try and fix everything all the time, and provide and protect in the way that you can in this day and age, and how she wants it as well. And then sometimes just go a little bit above and beyond.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you reckon, Ashley?
It's the thought. And I mean, that's how you know when you're with someone that really actually loves you, is they reciprocate it and they acknowledge it and they try. And that's because I have plenty of male friends, and I am going to say John was one of these people, or one of these guys when he and I first met, where they're with a woman or they're with a partner and they're just awful to them.
Mm.
And there's this whole idea, well, that I'm the man in the relationship. I'm like, uh-huh. And she's supposed to be the woman. Great. But she's not supposed to,
That's
this
supposed to be diminished.
dynamic is supposed to go both ways, because even I'm like, there was a time when, and there's a transitioning period. I mean, when John's first marriage was like 14 years long, they were together for 17. Like there's some behavioral patterns that have been ingrained, right? But something would happen, or she couldn't hold up her end of an agreement or of a commitment or something, and he would drop everything and just take care of it. And I was like, I know you want to be a good dad, but is this really yours now? Because you don't have a shared life together. Is it
It's
really
also,
and that's a completely different dynamic, right? Blended family
yeah,
is chaos in
yeah. I
general.
think also, like, I find myself as well, and I'm not gonna say I'm the pillar of masculinity, not even close. There's so many things that I do wrong all the time and say and put my foot in, but I will. I feel like a strong, again, and this is personal opinions and that and personal beliefs, but my thing, and they'll probably change over the next years, and they have over the last years, is I will give my shirt off my back for somebody, especially women, more than men. I will do anything and go above and beyond for them to make their life easier. And I will run myself into the ground. I'm not as bad anymore as I used to be, but I will do it. And my wife and I have had conversations in the past and stuff. It's not as bad these days, I don't think, where I'll do things for everybody else before I'll do things for her, and then I'll do things for myself last. And I just feel like it is because it's been ingrained into me. That's what, I don't necessarily want to say that's what guys do, but that's just what you do.
Yeah, I think what I really want, I'm not trying to create animosity towards the
No,
ex-wife or do any of that. I think the
no.
point is that he really didn't realize how much he was being ran into the ground until
Yeah.
I was like, you could keep doing that, but what are you gonna do for yourself, and how is this person, because I know people who have, their former spouses, they have children, they're great, they're able to communicate with me, like, hey, I
Yeah.
know I said this, but I can't, I'm stuck in this thing, can you help me out, in exchange, is there something I can help with the kids, can I pick this up,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
plenty
Yeah.
there, and that's not, trying not to get super specific with it, but it was just, he would just do it because she told him to, I guess, was it? And
Yeah.
so I think the message that I'm trying to spit out is, healthy boundaries, self-respect,
Yep.
and because he's like, I didn't know it felt bad until somebody treated me differently. Like, I didn't,
Yeah.
because he's like, that's all that I
Learn
knew. We
behavior.
got together when he
Yeah.
was 18, 19,
Yeah.
you don't know, but
Learn behavior.
yeah. And so there's a lot of it where I'm like, you've done a lot here, and I recognize that. I'm like, why don't you,
Yeah, and it's
and
great.
he's gotten better at telling me what he needs to
Yeah.
decompress or
And
whatever
and
it is.
I think for men out there, as we kind of get to the end here, for men out there, it's to your point here is, and I personally learned this after burning out from PTSD and trauma from policing and doing, like I just said before, everything for everybody else before myself. That you've got to I teach and I coach on a pyramid structure, and the base level is self. That goes through communication, that goes through actions, that goes through doing things for yourself, so that when you turn up to your next level, which is relationships, that is your wife, spouse, significant other. You then can turn up to them fully. Then if that level is filled, then you can turn up to your kids, your children, your nieces, nephews, in my case. Then from there, it's then other family. And then from there, it's your work. And if you kind of guide that structure, areas kind of bleed together and they fulfill fulfill each other, and it goes up and down through the levels. But if you can kind of live off of that, especially as a man, you'll turn up to people so much better. You will be portrayed so much better because you're fulfilled. You're full. You're not sitting there. There's no resentment. There's no shit. I did this for my ex-wife and now I don't have time for myself, and this fucking sucks, and this and that, or I wasn't able to do it for my current wife, or, all these things. And so then there's less anger, there's less resentment, and you have so much more peace.
Yeah.
Is that kind of also what you were kind of saying, Ashley? I feel like that kind of leads into where you were trying to.
Yeah, in a way better, more eloquent way of putting that together. Because, I mean, it's just true. And I think, even for women, it's true. We're trying to raise our daughters to have a good sense of self, because if they have a good sense of self and they have the self-esteem and the self-confidence and self-security, then other people who are toxic or who are completely lost or malicious, they're not going to tolerate that in their lives. And not, I mean, boundaries are healthy, blah blah blah, that all of that stuff, which is true. And you can have boundaries without giving up kindness. I think that's something that people forget, is like, just because you said no doesn't mean that, like, you're a horrible person, and nobody should make you feel horrible for being like, not today.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, it's, and to be honest, when you put yourself first, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to like it.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if it's a new change and it's a new shift.
Yeah.
Completely. But it's self-respect, right? And when you have self-respect, people just, when you have that, people just inherently, they don't fuck with you.
No.
Because you're not tolerating it. And it's like a psychic knowledge of like, oh, okay, well, nope, that person's not, I can't do any shenanigans with this person. They're going to shut that down immediately because it's not part of what they'll tolerate, or what they'll entertain, I guess might be a better word for it. But yeah, I think that it's I can imagine that it's dating and career and family and everything is it's a different world to navigate, which I guess it doesn't really anticipate.
Whoever told us that adulting would be good? Like, why do we ever want to be adults? I think back to, I'm like, oh, man, my parents were so right. They're like, you have no clue once you become an adult. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I will. Yeah, being a kid was so easy, to be honest.
I know, right?
In so many aspects. In so many aspects it wasn't, but so many aspects it was. It was like, to be honest, you had no real worries in life.
You know what, dude? Like, at this point, if somebody else can just figure out what to do for dinner, I mean, that's. I'm like,
you heard it, John. John, you heard it. You heard it, John.
Yeah. We're both decision fatigue, where we're like, what's for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know.
It's so funny. You see those memes, like my wife and I love to travel. We're about to go to Hawaii next week. And there's these memes that go, yeah, my wife cannot decide what she wants to do for dinner, but she can book a vacation in under an hour. And where we're going to go and what we're going to do.
Yep. Nope, absolutely.
I'm the same way. If you're like, hey Chris, we're gonna go for a motorcycle ride. Where are we gonna go? Cool. I can make a decision quickly. If you ask me what I want for dinner, I don't know. Some food.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, we had that last night and we had that last week.
Yeah.
That's
Ashley, I'm starting a bit of a tradition, asking the same question to everybody at the very end of the episode. So wrapping up question. If you could hand every man, and this is from your perspective, from a female perspective, if you could hand every man on the planet a single insight that would unlock his potential to lead, love, and live with purpose, what would you tell him?
I'm a huge, if it wasn't apparent already, I'm a huge fan of being true to yourself. Do the things that allow you to sleep at night with a clean conscience. And do right by yourself and the people that you love. And I just don't think that you can go wrong as long as you're following that little mantra or life outlook. Because you get a lot of noise from the media, from friends, from family, from even your own head sometimes. And we have very few rules in our house, and it's don't be a dick. Yeah. But when you have nothing else, honesty. That's all you got, right? As honesty. And I think if you can be true to yourself and honest with yourself, that's gonna guide you a long way. It's not always easy, but you're gonna be able to be proud of yourself.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And to sum all that up, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
I love it. Thank you. We didn't dive into everything, so I'm sure we'll have you back at some stage.
I'd love
It's been
to.
awesome. Ashley, before we finish, I want to give you the opportunity to, I know that you do some great stuff with social media in this day and age. Everybody's got to be involved. If they're doing anything in their own business or wanting to create a personal brand or personal image, they're on social media. But tell us a little bit about, tell the audience real quick around, what it is that you do and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so I do done for you social media content creation and strategy. My favorite thing is to help small business owners and entrepreneurs be able to show up and do what they love without having to worry about the tech or if their message is getting out or if their Facebook is actually working or anything like that. I can help people put that all together. So anyone who's interested in having a conversation can go to chatwithash.com, and that is my booking link, and they can just reserve some time. There's a little note in there, so I just ask everybody to just tell me a little about who they are, and what they'd like to talk about when we jump on the call, so that I don't know that you're one of the new AI spam bots that's taking over the internet.
Yeah.
And if you name drop
Awesome.
Chris in the podcast, I will absolutely be super excited to talk to you. So yeah, it'll be great.
Cool. Excellent. I'll put that link in the description down below or up top or wherever it is that you're seeing this. We'll drop that description down below. Again, Ashley, thank you very much. Thanks everybody. Remember, men out there, you are loved, you are cared about. Women, same thing, but this podcast is directed at those men and that masculinity. So just keep, as we've kind of said for this episode, don't be a dick. Look after yourself, consistently grow, learn. That's what we're all about. And if you need any assistance, please do reach out. Send us an email, whatever, however you want to get in touch with us. We're here. We're on social media. Make sure you like, subscribe, please, and share around so this gets out to even more people. As one of the many different podcasts on masculinity. But if you like it, please do share it out. And we will talk to you later. Stay strong, guys, and we will see you on the flip side. There we go.